I think for the first time, India has demonstrated that trade will not be dictated by diplomacy. Trade has to stand on its own legs. Trade has to be fair. And diplomacy will take care of itself through diplomatic channels.
Imagine this, a ship sailing through stormy waters, pushed by strong winds and towering waves. It's a scary sight, but the ship keeps moving forward, determined to reach its destination. That ship is India's Trade-to-GDP ratio, and despite facing some choppy waters in recent years, it's still on course to reach its goal. In fact, the latest data suggests that India's TGR is not only holding steady, but it's actually showing signs of growth. So what's behind the surprising turnaround? India's trade-to-GDP ratio has been a topic of debate among economists and policymakers in recent years. Some have argued that India's declining TGR is a sign of increased insularity and withdrawal from the global trading system. However, this argument does not hold up when we consider the underlying factors that have contributed to the decline. Let's look at the factors that have impacted India's TGR. One factor that has had a significant impact on India's TGR is the price of crude oil, which has always been a large part of India's imports. The years when the TGR was at its highest levels were also when crude oil prices were at all-time highs of about $100 per barrel, with prices cooling down to $84 per barrel in 2014-2015 and a low of about $45 in financial year 2021. India's TGR declined to a low of 33%. However, it has since recovered to 51% again in the first half of financial year 2023, with crude prices ruling at $96 per barrel. This is why to say that India's trade is losing sheen would not be correct. It is just the price of crude oil that is reflected in a lower TGR. Another factor that has contributed to the decline in India's TGR is the disappointing global growth in the last decade. India's exports grew rapidly in the 8 years between financial year 2004 and 2012, with the annual growth rate of goods exports at 21.3% and that of services at 23.2%. However, since then and up to 2021, growth rates slowed down. The economic recovery in advanced economies was sluggish, and hence their aggregate demand was weak, which affected India's exports. Additionally, India's balance sheet played a bigger part, and non-financial balance sheets had to be deleveraged, while financial, that is banking and non-banking balance sheets, had to be strengthened with capital infusion, loan loss recognition, etc. This is reflected in the data on India's capital goods imports, which have witnessed a fall since 2014. However, India's exports are now on a road to improvement. There is reason to believe that the recent recovery in India's exports of goods and services is a likely turning point. It signals the completion of balance sheet repairs in the financial and non-financial sectors. India believes in an open-minded and practical approach to international trade that is not influenced by any specific ideology. It understands that being open to competition is crucial for growth. This indicates that India's industrial policy is not hurting its export competitiveness or its openness to the world. India's combined value of exports and imports of goods and services for financial year 2023 is expected to exceed $1.6 trillion with an overall trade-to-GDP ratio of around 47%. In conclusion, India's declining TGR is not a sign of increased insularity or withdrawal from the global trading system. India has been able to increase its exports even during a tough time globally. This is good news because it shows that India's policies to support its industries and trade with other countries are working well and making it easier for us to compete in the global market.